Hello, everybody. Welcome to Friar Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. I'm Darren Smith, Marty, Caswell with you. You can subscribe to Friar Territory on YouTube, wherever it is that you get your podcasts as we head in to a holiday weekend. We hope everybody has a very safe one and a very enjoyable one. We do start this show. Those of you on YouTube can already see his handsome face. Those of you listening on the podcast, it's always exciting when we get to say hello to Dennis Lynn, who covers the Padres in Major League Baseball for The Athletic. He joins us on this very special episode of Friar Territory. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Hi, Darren. Hi, Marty. I don't know about special, but thanks for having me.
I would say special. I want to thank you for dressing up for the occasion. I've never once in my entire life, and I've known you for years, I've never seen you wear a hat. So thank you for dressing up for Friar Territory trade deadline episode.
Yeah, like I told you off mic, Marty, I'm trying to scare people, or scare you at least. I hope I give you a jump scare.
Okay. Dennis, is it premature to talk about the trade deadline? Marty's billing this as some sort of trade deadline episode. We're going to read people's, what do they call them, tweets or whatever, posts on X coming up a little later on. You can imagine what the tone is going to be. I'm sure you're getting something similar when you write stories at The Athletic and you ask people for mailbag questions. Is it too early to talk about the trade deadline? We're going to do it regardless, but how do you view that at this point now, just getting into the month of July?
No, number one, what else are you going to talk about in this
Fair
season for the Padres? I mean, everything revolves around this, right? What are they going to do the deadline? And does this team put itself in a position to legitimately buy at the deadline? What do they have to sell? So it's a huge question. Yeah, I think it's not too early. This is, I was writing about this like a month ago, so maybe I was premature, but I mean, this is what it's all about.
Sure. And you're right to say that, like, obviously, cue the picture of AJ Preller on a cell phone pacing around some random place, that he does have to do the groundwork, no matter whatever the strategy might be coming up at the trade deadline, which I believe is August 3rd this year. But Dennis, before we get into any of those specifics, I do think that there is one bigger overarching question, which is about ownership. And what is the very latest about ownership and when the new owners might be officially approved? And in the meanwhile, if they're not approved before the deadline, who is running things for the Padres right now? Is John Seidler still the point person? Is he still involved in operational? Is it Eric Rupner? Like, what's the latest on that front? Because that feels like that's pretty big, and we're patiently waiting for some news on that, and there just hasn't seemed to be much.
Yeah, the Padres will tell you that John Seidler is still running things. He is still the chairman. He has not handed things off yet because, number one, they have not voted on Feliciano and Kwanza Jones. I would expect there's a good chance there will be a vote before the end of July. I know people were thinking early June, those owners' meetings in New York, that was going to be the natural time to vote on them. But yeah, they just didn't have all their ducks in a row, which I guess is not super abnormal for a large sale of this price, this magnitude. I wouldn't call it like super typical either, just the fact that it's taken this long, but it's a big record price, right? Record valuation, at least. They're buying somewhere between 30 to 40% of it. And my understanding is whoever are the minority owners, and there'll probably be quite a few of them, might be buying in for another 20 or so percent. So they're just trying to line that up. I don't know if they're having trouble convincing certain minority owners or people who are staying in to, maybe up their investment. Just an example, because they would be upping their investment at a 3.9 billion valuation, not the 1.8 or 1.9, whatever it was about a year ago. So a lot of documentation, from what I understand, that needs to be sent to the commissioner's office, capital structure and all that. And right now they've got the All-Star game coming up, so that could be another thing that slows things down, because everyone knows how MLB is about big announcements interfering with their crown jewel events. So I think end of July might be what we're looking at right now. But in the meantime, I think there's probably some back channeling or direct communication between Preller and John Seidler and the new incoming owners. So I don't think that's going to affect too much, the timing of what they're going to be allowed to do with the deadline, because the new owners are already, I think, from my understanding, kind of in there and communicating with certain people.
Interesting. Dennis, your colleague at The Athletic, and of course here in Foul Territory, Ken Rosenthal, has put it out there several times that other executives in baseball get the idea that AJ Preller is going to be able to spend. Number one, how do we know that? And will they be in place in time for Preller to go ahead and make a move to acquire 3 starting pitchers, a starting catcher, and a lefty bat?
Well, that's the thing. I think, like I said, that they're talking behind the scenes, the owners and the Padres. So even if they're not approved before August 3rd, even if they're not officially in place, I think there is some understanding right now, or at least some expectation that there will be at least a little money to spend. I don't know how much, and we don't know where the team's going to be in the standings a month from now. So that's obviously the number one factor. But I think, yeah, there is some expectation internally, externally, teams that have talked to Preller and the Padres that they will have some money to spend because, if you're looking otherwise, they don't have a farm system really. I know the Padres always come up with prospects to trade every deadline, but if you're going to get someone good, it's a lot easier to, add a salary as opposed to trading prospects that you don't have. So we will see how much money they have to add, but if they're going to want to do anything, I don't know if you want to trade Ethan Salas for anything at this point. He's just coming back from an injury, and he kind of need catching help at some point. If not, by the end of the year, I think adding money would be the easiest way for the Padres to upgrade.
Yeah, and in the past, it's not like AJ Preller just waves a magic wand and has the autonomy to go ahead and trade away Leo DeVries or whomever in years past, James Wood, et cetera. The list goes on, not trying to depress anybody here. But he's always had to present that to ownership, which is what makes this dynamic so interesting, right? And I wonder, Dennis, we don't know much about the new incoming ownership group. And if they're going to be, what's the right word here, as willing as Peter Seidler was to be optimistic about this team for the remainder of the regular season, right? We don't know enough about them to know how it is that they will gel and mesh with AJ Preller and how he evaluates this and any potential optimism, right? So it's kind of tricky. It's tricky even if ownership was stable at this point. What do you see? How much should we be thinking this team is worth investing in at this point, financially or prospect capital wise?
It's an open question, right? We're going to find out, I guess, in a month. We'll see. But, we've seen the statement that they put out all the way back in early May. It feels like 2 years ago now, when the Padres are still well above 500 and things were great, right? That, these new owners are all in. They're going to carry on Peter's legacy. They're going to try to win a World Series championship. So, are you going to sell off pieces as soon as you get in there? I don't think so. I don't see that. I don't see, obviously, Preller, it was up to him. He's never going to do that. Just written, I know I've written about this, and some people disagree because they look at this offense and they look at this starting pitching rotation. I totally understand it. Why would you even buy? But I'm looking at the clocks, biological clocks of Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts. I know neither one's having a good season. Xander Bogaerts quietly has had a terrible 2+ months or whatever it is. But they're not getting any younger. Next season, you don't know what's going to happen. Is there going to be a season, number one? And if there's games missed, that's just going to shorten the window they have with these two guys. And I know it's not been the best window in the last couple of years. They get to the playoffs and then they get eliminated. But these guys are not getting any younger. I know at some point maybe you try to move off these contracts if you're the owners, but if you're kind of stuck with them for at least another season or two, you have to maximize it somehow because I don't know. They're not going to get dramatically better next season. I don't see that. So you're kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place with, whether you should buy or sell and how much more you can do with these guys for the next 2 years.
To your point, Dennis, I think Manny Machado will turn 34 when the Padres return from this series against the Dodgers. You don't usually trend younger. I mean, you don't usually play better at that point. But how much pressure on AJ Preller to really go for it all right now with the guys they do have, with the contracts not aging well? I mean, this to me, I know new ownership and he has a contract, but how much pressure on Preller to win with what he has right now with this declining window?
It's got to be huge, right? Because attendance is what has been propping up this machine. And I know the average fan sees Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts and Tatis Merrill, still wants to come to games. I know maybe the more diehard fan is like, what is the point of this? We should sell. But if they want to get season ticket renewals and all that, they need to shows something that they're still trying to win to the casual fan, because a lot of the fans that come to Petco, no offense to, I'm hopefully I'm not offending like tens of thousands of people, are casual fans. So attendance is a huge thing. Yeah, again, it's not a great place to be, but I think that they have to show they're still trying to win. Even if this is ultimately a lost season, we'll see if it is. I think it's still early to say that. But I think, yeah, Preller, I think he's signed to a relatively short-term extension. I know they haven't come out and said the years, but it's clear that it's probably not more than 2 years, if I had to guess, based on the signs and indications people I've talked to. So yeah, he's under pressure just based on his own job security, because he's got new owners coming in. Who knows if they might want their own GM at some point, maybe as soon as this off season. I don't know if that's too soon with lockout coming, but I think he's got every incentive to not only put butts in the seats, but to try to win for the sake of his own contract and his job security.
It's interesting because, they went all in at the trade deadline last year, and then they followed that up with a pretty uneventful offseason where they didn't really allow him to spend money. He had to go out there and get some reclamation projects and see if one of them could stick. So I wonder where the appetite is to see what he can do again at the trade deadline. I wonder if you can go back-to-back seasons like that. I mean, that's what last year was all about, expiring contracts with relief pitchers and starting pitchers. And, it's fascinating to watch. Dennis, real quick, 30 seconds because we know we got to go. We're about to read a bunch of tweets from people or questions from people, and a lot of them have to do with the coaching staff. We're past the midway point of the season. Your thoughts overall on how the coaching staff has performed?
It's hard to judge the results in a sense, because there's been so much turnover on the coaching staff the last decade or so. At the same time, I think you look at 4 or 5 guys making a lot of money. I'm including Jay Cronenworth before he got his concussion, and I know he's back now. But like everyone performing at their career worst level is not a good endorsement of its coaching staff and Craig Stammen. But again, I mean, there's been so many philosophical changes over the last decade that it's hard to say that like anyone's set up to have much success coaching this team right now. But I think that this goes back to Preller too, right? It's another new manager, a guy who didn't necessarily want the job, and Craig Stammen initially had to be talked into it, had to fast over it. So there's a lot going on there. There's rookie coaches that he has under him. Obviously, we're talking about Steven Souza, number one. But I think, this coaching staff, based on how the team's played, you can look at it 2 ways. Like, they're lucky to be over 500, and this coaching staff is somehow holding it together. And this coach, or number 2, that the coaching staff is holding them back, and they should be hitting much better than 30th in the league. They're starting a rotation. I don't know how much Ruben Niebla can do about that, because to your point, Darren, these are a bunch of reclamation projects. At some point, you're not gonna hit on everyone. I mean, they're only hitting on Walker Buehler right now. So I think the coaching staff is they're in a tough spot, but at the same time, it's hard to say that they've done like a bang up job under a rookie manager, Craig Stammen.
Yeah, bad cocktail, bad mix, it would feel on a couple different fronts. Dennis Lynn of The Athletic, we appreciate you. We definitely appreciate your work, and we thank you very much for taking the time to join us on Friar Territory.
Thanks,
Thanks
Dennis.
very much.
All right, that's Dennis Lynn of The Athletic. When we come back, we're going to dive into your social media posts and find out what you people are thinking. That's coming up next. All right. Well, there's so many things happening right now, from sporting events. The Padres are going to be back home at some point. We're going to see the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're going to see the defending American League champs, the Toronto Blue Jays. SeatGeek is your place to find all the tickets for all the events that you're looking for. 35 million downloads. It is the #1 rated ticketing app. We're talking about MLB, full swing, World Cup games. I'm on this app all the time. You can find what you're looking for, concerts and otherwise. 70,000 events currently listed on SeatGeek. So find what you're looking for, download the app, and make sure that you are getting the very best deal possible with SeatGeek.
Darren, the #1 ticketing app, as you mentioned, over 35 million different downloads. Perhaps you've had enough of the Dodgers. You don't want to go to Dodger Stadium during the 4th of July weekend, but don't forget, the Diamondbacks, man, we are talking about the wild card race in Petco Park next weekend, and you can get your Trevor Hoffman bobblehead on Tuesday. There's only one place to go to get your tickets, and that would be SeatGeek.
Yeah, there's a lot of baseball games there. And if you want to download the app, we have a code. Of course, we have a code for you guys. Territory 10, 10% off your next set of MLB tickets at SeatGeek. Link in the description. Download the app. Have that code automatically added to your account. So SeatGeek will have you covered there. But also, we have this once in a lifetime event with the World Cup, and it's not too far away. It's up the road, Los Angeles. Or if you want to make a trip, how great do all these scenes look? You want to be a part of that. So find what you're looking for at SeatGeek. Thank you, SeatGeek. All right, love that. A little bit of production there. Sounds good, Marty. I think your mic is muted, but do appreciate the fine people of Friar Territory. Again, you can subscribe on YouTube. You can find us wherever it is that you find your podcasts. Marty has put out the bat signal. She has said, "Hey, what would you like to talk about?" Of course, we do this when the Padres are dropping back-to-back series to the Dodgers
I
and the
know.
Cubs, and you can imagine we're probably going to get a tone temperature of the fan base here that might not exactly be rosy and might not be positive. And if we do this again next week and the Padres somehow run through Los Angeles and win 4 games against the LA Dodgers, I'm going to guess that the tone's going to be a little bit different.
Yes.
So with that as a prefacing commentary, let us see what people are talking about when Marty put out the call for some reaction here from some of the Friar faithful, Marty.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do tweet number 1. I'm going to keep it simple, Darren, and just call it a tweet. We all know what a tweet is.
Correct.
All right. Okay, what are your biggest concerns? And this is from Garrett, a.k.a. Ash. Biggest concern is the coaching staff. The managerial choice was questionable at best. Stammen has no previous coaching experience, admittedly never had a desire to coach, and had to be talked into taking the job. They are not fundamentally sound, which is true, by the way, and they lack accountability. Darren? The managerial choice was interesting, and again, it goes to that conversation as to how many different managers is AJ Preller going to hire. Again, another first-time manager right from the front office, right? He was a special assistant to AJ Preller. He was well-respected inside that clubhouse as a pitcher, and he's respected now, but when you are struggling across the board and you have a very inexperienced coaching staff, think about the brunt of the criticism has been on the offense. We can talk about the pitching as much, about the failures of the pitching staff, but that's not on Ruben Niebla. That to me is about what he has to work with. I think more of the conversation has been about the offense, and then you're going with Craig Stammen hiring a first-time hitting coach in Steven Souza. So yeah, I think there's a lot of questions on this coaching staff as to why AJ Preller in a very important season went with another first-time manager.
There are dozens of these about the coaching staff and specifically about Craig Stammen, and all of them seem to touch on the points, Marty, that you were making, which is this is a guy that didn't really want the job. You had other people that wanted the job. He was part of the interview process, but on the other side of it. And then he decided, okay, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. And there's lots of theories here. One of the theories is everybody knew this was going to be an awkward, wonky transition season for ownership.
Yeah.
So maybe Craig Stammen's sort of a placeholder here until you can find a little bit more stable of a situation where you'd go out there and maybe find a manager. But that's not exactly Preller's MO. Preller did go the Jay Stingler route. Andy Green, who's back with the Mets, that was a different era. But, and there's also the whole, Preller gets his guy and he wants people that he's compatible with and people that will do his bidding. I'm using a lot of euphemisms here, so I don't say puppet. But, so there are those theories as well that Craig Stammen is kind of cut from that mold. But bottom line, if we're evaluating them, I agree. I think you can say multiple things are true at the same time. Yeah, players are underperforming. I do think that is a little bit of a reflection on the coaching staff. But, I also tend to think, Marty, that we've seen some bad baseball. We've seen some sloppy baseball. We've seen some bad base running. We've seen some lack of discipline when it comes to ABS challenges.
Yes.
So I just think there's a lot of things that don't make the coaching staff look good, even if you want to say that this is like a once-in-a-generation moment where all of these hitters who have all been signed to extensions have suddenly and simultaneously just forgotten how to hit.
That's part of it. The Padres did get Jake Cronenworth back. I did see that Luis Campusano is on a rehab start, so hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. I want to see how this team is going to perform when they have players that we expected to be on this roster can't be Jake Cronenworth, rather than unproven guys from AAA who they had to bring up here. I want to see how that team plays when you have the guys you consider everyday players, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but the everyday players are.
No, I know. I agree. Okay, our next tweet, Darren. Moving on. Let's see. Why haven't 1904? Why haven't the new owners been introduced? Has a sale been finalized? Well, there you go. I think you just answered your own question, CR 1904. They have not been introduced because a sale has not been finalized. We just talked to Dennis Lin of The Athletic. He's thinking hopefully maybe the end of July, right before the trade deadline. When that happens, then we will hear, I would imagine, from Jose Feliciano and Kwanza Jones. They were at Petco Park for the first Dodgers series. They have not spoken to anybody, and we won't expect to hear from them until the sale is finally finalized.
And as Dennis said, there's something here that was not ready to push forward. So again, I also don't like some of the words that we're hearing. I think we had Evan Drellich of The Athletic on, Dennis's colleague, and he said, it's likely, and we've heard from the commissioner that it's probably.
I know.
Likely and probably aren't words that I love when we're talking about, hey, how does this franchise move forward? When we're talking about things that are likely going to happen or probably going to happen over some timeline. And of course, now it lends itself to conspiracy theories with about the CBA and the 3.9, and maybe there's something that's, so there's just all sorts of stuff.
Are any big investors or any investors getting cold feet?
We all knew this was going to be an incredibly complicated process, but you can't just make a 3.9 valuation process when myriad owners go smoothly. But still, like you're looking at the calendar now and you're starting to think, clock feels like it's ticking for some pretty important decisions.
Okay. Next tweet number 3 from Kyle. My biggest fear is that they repeat the same mistake as 23, where they half buy instead of selling off extremely valuable assets. Snell was the best lefty in the market, and with Chapman really struggling this month, Morejon would be the best reliever on the market. I would say that maybe Mason Miller would be the best reliever on the market. But now fans are having flashbacks to 23 when they wanted them to sell Blake Snell. Was it Josh Hader? Josh Hader too? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Hader,
then
Snell.
And they went for it.
Probably somebody else in that mix as well, because there were some players that were free agents, and the Padres decided not to sell. Morejon because he's a free agent at the end of the year.
True.
So and who even knows, are the Padres going to have the financial wherewithal to go out there and pursue a contract with Adrian Morejon? Mason Miller, if they did dangle him out there because he's under control for another couple of years, absolutely. So the Padres do have some big league pieces, but it would be raising the white flag for sure, unless you can figure out a creative way of getting what it is that you need through the door here. So listen, I'm somebody that's on record a million times saying I wouldn't have sold in 23 either. I felt like that team was at some point going to click. Didn't end up that far out of the playoff picture, but it never happened, so who cares? I just don't feel it with this group. So I'm more interested in finding out perhaps, and this is an opportunity, Marty, to shed a little bit of payroll too by attaching it to a player like an Adrian Morejon. I don't know the answer to that, but certainly it's worth considering, I think. I think this is different than 23. Peter Seidler's still alive. And, that was part of the calculus, I do believe, was his optimism was still around the organization. But I don't sense I'm alone in feeling like this is a totally different situation 3 seasons
There was
later.
something with winning for Pete, like giving it your all to give it one last hurrah, hopefully with Peter Seidler. All right, to go ahead and finish things up, 2 more from Lance Fogel. Biggest concern that Jackson Merrill is a bust. Would like to hear you and Darren comment on that possibility. I am going to go on the side of his youth and say that he is not a bust. I think we've seen too much. It's a very, very small sample size, admittedly, but that talent is there, that desire is there, that leadership is there. All the intangibles that you want in a franchise player are there with Jackson Merrill. Again, if it were just Jackson Merrill struggling, you could maybe point at something, but it's a collective group. It's a collective effort right now. So maybe you're going to find the right coaching staff to get the best thing out of Jackson Merrill. Right now, for whatever reason, it's not working for him. It's not a health thing. Last year, the health thing plagued him. The hamstring injury, Darren, the obliques, the concussion, all those things weighed in. But we've seen so much of what Jackson Merrill can do. I think it's way too soon to say that he is a bust.
I would agree. I think he's also a positive WAR player, which
Yeah.
not a lot of people on this team could say. It is a little bit of a mystery because I was really banking on Jackson Merrill to have a big season, especially the way he played in September when he came back. I want to say he hit 7 home runs after September 1st last year. So, Rookie of the Year candidate, should have won it, in my opinion. All-Star season number 1, injury plague season number 2. I do think that he's just, like you said, part of the team funk, part of the malaise across the board, but I'm not ready to say bust yet. And I think the contract is very manageable. What would he get today? Probably not that. But we're not talking about somebody either who's bottom of the league in batting, right? Like there's no universe in which I think if he was truly at the bust level, Marty, I think we'd be talking about sending him to AAA, which the Padres could do. And I don't think we're even close to that. Not because they don't have anybody to replace him, just because it doesn't make any sense. And you do feel like, some of this stuff mechanical in his head a little bit. So I'm not there yet, but it is a surprise that he's not performed to the level a lot of us thought he would. All right, we'll come back. We'll wrap it up a couple of more, perhaps before we say goodbye. Friar Territory, continue, stick around. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. So, are you ready to play your game? Head over to FanDuel.com/podcast to get started. That's FanDuel.com/podcast to opt in for daily dingers. Make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball. Swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Wrapping it up here, Marty, before we head into a holiday weekend. And thanks again to Dennis Lynn of The Athletic. Do we have time for one or two more questions?
Okay, yes, here we go. From Travis. If they are 500 or below the next few weeks, gotta consider trading Morahone, Miller, and Adam. That's from Travis. Now, I bet. Now, Darren, I believe that 2 of those 3 are free agents after the season, right? Morahone and Jason Adam. I would argue that the player that has the highest value is going to be Mason Miller. Okay, we've come back.
But he's also the reason. That's the reason why I think you keep him, though, is because he is under contract.
Under control, right? And he's a star. He's an absolute star. And again, I just can't imagine the message you're sending to your fans, whether it's going to be with AJ Preller next season or someone else. I think that trading a guy like that would be an absolute mistake and a kick in the face, man, to your fans who are still buying tickets to every single game. They're going to draw more than 3 million again this season. That's already guaranteed. But again, this is a team that's had back-to-back losing months. So is our rallying call, Darren, for the month of July? Can you play 500 baseball in the month of July? And then see what happens. I mean,
here's the thing, though. I mean, the 3 million attendance thing gets tossed around an awful lot. I mean, do we believe that the 3 million people, just to use the round number, I might not be actually 3 million different people. It's attendance. But do we think that everybody that's going to these games is totally against the idea of making the franchise better in the future? That they're just there and their sole desire as a Padre fan is just to see the team win that day? Or do they really care about the long-term health of the franchise? Because I'd be willing to bet you, Marty, there's a lot of people there like, hey, we're paying a lot of money. Can you put a good product on the field? We want to win. Do what you got to do, right? But I bet you there's also a lot of fans who do have the view and the opinion that, this isn't as good as it was a couple of years ago. And maybe 100%. We need to retool. So I know we always say just because people are going to games, it's an indication that the team should buy. But I'd be willing to bet a lot of the people that go to the games probably are the opinion that the team should sell.
I think there's some of that too, but here's the problem, Darren. How many of those people that are saying, oh, yeah, I care about the future are going to keep buying tickets? Like, you can still care about your team, but a lot of times you're like, listen, I'm not going to
buy it if the team doesn't have any future, Marty.
No, I understand that. But I'm saying like for right now, like for next season. And again, the lockout's going to go ahead and alter a lot of things because you're not paying your renewals if there's a lockout. And then there's going to be fans that won't come back. And there's going to be plenty of fans that they might watch the games, but they're not paying top dollar to go ahead and go to Petco Park to watch a rebuilding effort and watch, Jace Bowen take meaningful at bats. That's going to change.
The fans aren't stupid. I mean, they know that this team is probably doesn't have the sauce. So, I don't think we need to be insulting to the fans and think that they're just showing up there magically believing that this team is somehow going to turn it around and make a run at a World Series.
No,
they haven't
100%.
shown any evidence of that. So,
and if the team falls out, Darren, you know what? They may have bought the tickets, but it doesn't mean they're going to go to games and, and buy beer and eat pizza and all that fun stuff and hot dogs later on after the deadline. We'll see what happens. See what happens.
Yeah. All right. I think we have one more real quick.
No, we don't.
Then
We're done.
We're done?
We are done.
Right.
Let's go.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Like I said, so many of them are on the coaching staff. So many of them are on selling, and so we tried to just get some feedback there that represented
the
some
flavor
of
the fans, and we've got.
Yeah, July will tell us. We thought June would tell us something, and it's certainly nudged us in a certain direction. It hasn't finalized anything.
This is the most crucial month of the entire baseball season, and AJ Preller's Padres future is upon us. July.
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, I think I think ownership is what AJ Preller's about. I don't think wins and losses in July necessarily is a referendum on AJ Preller as much as people want it to be. Is he compatible with the new owner? Yes or no? That's all it is. That's really all it is, because he's had disappointing seasons under Peter Seidler before, but they were compatible. They had a shared vision. Will that be the same whenever it is that the new ownership group comes in? Nobody can answer that question, but hopefully we'll get some answers on that sooner rather than later. But July, everybody, buckle up, because you're going to get a lot more. I mean, we could be talking much more about things that are happening off the field than things that are happening on the field. So enjoy 4th of July, everybody. Thank you very much. For Marty, Caswell, Darren Smith, thank you for supporting Friar Territory. See you next time.